Welcome back to the Digital Moneta channel. I hope everybody weathered that double-digit downturn in the market yesterday. We wanted to hop on here and discuss how we were able to avoid the big losses. We still incurred some losses, but overall, our three active hoppers were either even. The Signals one ended up about even. The Binance Bunny Hopper was up about 1%, and the Bittrex Hopper was up about 2% by the end of the day when everything was said and done. So we wanted to hop on here and kind of show you how we were able to weather the storm. So we'll start first over here with the Binance Signals Hopper. Since we have very little control, for the most part, the signals are coming from third parties, so we can't really control what is being bought per se, but we are able to at least control a few factors that can help mitigate the risk. And that first factor that you always want to have in place is a stop loss. If you didn't have a stop loss yesterday, you're probably there with double-digit losses wondering how you get out of those. We have our stop loss percentage always on and enabled and set at 4%. 4% we have found is enough room to give it wiggle, and even at the 4%, you'll see we had a couple losses in the 7% range because the market fell so fast. But I'll take 7% over 18, 19, 20% all day long. And on a single token, that's acceptable to us as far as our strategy goes. And another feature you could have, which we don't currently have set on signals, we are doing a little back testing, is a trailing stop buy. And that could help if the signal comes in to buy, but that coin's continuing down, this would continue to follow it down before it bought in. We don't have that set up currently on our signals because we're not exactly sure what's triggering that signal and if we need to get in right then and there. The other feature you can utilize is the enable cooldown, which if the market is going down quickly and you get in and then right out, and then the signal for whatever reason says to get back in, you'll at least have 1 hour to avoid getting back in too soon. So we used the enable cooldown period with all of our hoppers, and it did save us a couple times yesterday. And when we get over to the charts, I will show you where it actually saved us. So again, on the signals, there's not a whole lot we can do as far as the buy triggers and what's buying. You really have to depend on the signal provider to change the strategy based on the market of the day. And yesterday they all did seem to change their strategy. We did actually end up starting to see some green even while the rest of the market was moving down. And we could really see early in the morning on the 5th, where around 4 a.m., 3:55, 4 a.m., all these sell-offs started to hit our signals, and we started taking those losses. Now, because of our stop losses, these went much deeper than these percentages here, but we were able to stop from following it completely down. Then later in the day, you can see around 10 a.m., started sending some different signals that proved to be a little more in line with what the market was doing, and we started to see some gains. So we did not turn off our hoppers during this down market because we believe in our system that we can still make money even while it's going down. We were able to start cutting into those losses we had taken. And then the market did take another dive. We lost out on a couple more coins. And again, the strategy from the signals changed, updated according to the market again, and we started to see some really nice profits again. And so we were able to weather the storm with our signals, even though we didn't have that much control, but we stuck with the system. And that is extremely important when you're trading, is sticking with your system, believing in your system. So we'll jump over to the Bittrex Bunny Hopper and look at its trade history for the day on the 5th. And again, we can see starting on the 5th, early in the morning, we had a bunch of buy signals because we're generally looking at oversold coins, and obviously they were all heading down, and about as quickly as we got in, our stops took us out. So we started getting taken out pretty quickly. And as the day turned, we were able to pick up some profits. And for the most part on this hopper, we actually ended up about 1%, even though we had quite the hit early in the day. Towards the end of the day, we were able to turn that around. How we did that, again, is based on our configuration. So here we're telling when to buy, when to sell, based on our different indicators. But the first thing you'll see is we have our cooldown period. And again, when we jump over to the charts, you'll see where that cooldown period saved us a couple times from getting into a second loss on that second wave down later in the day. We were able to avoid that and then actually get in when it was down at the bottom and we had a little bit of a bounce. So enable cooldown period of 1 hour actually saved us a couple times yesterday from taking an additional 4% loss. The other feature that worked in our favor yesterday was the enable trailing stop buy. So as our signals came in and they were headed down, they continued down, and until we saw some kind of positive motion upwards, it was not buying. And then once it moved up 0.25%, it would actually buy in. So that actually helped us from buying in too early. However, in some cases, too early was would have been at any point. And then if, of course, we look over here, we had our stop loss turned on, 4%. And as you saw, most of those were 4% or maybe a little bit over because they fell so quickly. And those were the main features that save us from taking big losses. So when we jump over into our settings on our Bittrex site, on our Bittrex bot, you can see we're doing 30-minute candles. It's the RSI that got us in, and the Bollinger Bands that sent the signals to buy yesterday. And it was this oversold threshold of 20 and the lower Bollinger Band of 2 that got us into our positions yesterday. What we're considering is changing the Bollinger Bands to 2.5. I've seen that done in the Forex realm before, and work on more volatile currencies. We may consider that over here. I'm not so certain whether we'll do it, but we will certainly stick with the oversold threshold of 20 on the RSI. And now we'll go ahead and take a look at the Binance technical analysis bot that we have set up. And you're going to see very similar settings for both the Binance and the Bittrex, because we've actually had quite a bit of success. So we jump back over here. The only difference you're going to see here is our overbought threshold, which means the upper end. Because we do shorting with this bot, we have it set at 90. We don't want to get in too early on a short sale. We rather have that get even more oversold so we have more movement down. So we actually have that set at 90 now, and it seems to be doing just fine. And we're still considering changing the Bollinger Bands to 2.5. We did have and do have the trailing stop buy turned off on this bot, and so that is probably why it did not perform quite as well yesterday as the Bittrex one. But right now we're going to go ahead and enable that, because we did prove our test yesterday was the perfect market condition to prove that this would be beneficial, allowing that price point to move down and not buying till we see movement up. So we will enable that right now. We'll go ahead and hit save. And so now this is enabled on the Binance, which will allow us to watch it move down before we get in. Of course, that stop loss is set, and that saved us again yesterday. And we'll go ahead and take a look over at the dashboard and look at yesterday's results. We'll see that at one point we do finally start getting back into the green. When we get into the 5th, early AM, all these stop losses are triggered, and for the most part they're all 4. There is a 7. That's how fast, again, EOS was falling yesterday. And we did actually pick up a couple winners. The afternoon drop hit, and then we started picking up our winners, a couple more losers, but for the most part winners. I'm going to show you on Aeon how if we change that Bollinger Band, we're able to avoid a couple of the losses. However, we would perhaps miss out on this gain. So we've got to do a lot of testing on that Bollinger Band setting. So why don't we go ahead and jump over here and take a look at those settings. So here's an example of OMG is one of our Binance tokens. We're allowed 15. This is one of the 15 we choose. We can see where the market dropped and both the Bollinger Band and the RSI settings were met. And so we got in. This green line represents where we got in at. We were eventually taken out on this candle here on the move down on our 4%. And this candle actually was probably about an 8% drop. So we only lost 4% between in this range, and then the other percentage there we didn't lose because of our stop. And we also didn't get right back in because of our 1 hour wait. So had we got right back in, we'd have never achieved our 3%, and we'd have lost on this candle here at 4% again. And we would have had a double loss. But our 1 hour wait time actually saved us. Unfortunately, when we get over to here, we were triggered to buy back in again, and it dropped down on us. So this actually didn't pay off, and this is where, with the Binance not having that trailing stop buy in place, because if we had the trailing stop buy in place, it would have actually not bought back in till this candle, and then we would have profited out. But by not having that trailing stop buy on, we actually got in early based on our settings, and we're stopped out shortly thereafter. There's actually a long wick right here on this candle where we get stopped out at before we're actually able to get the gains. So with the trailing stop buy, that would have saved us. Now, if we change this Bollinger Band to a 2.5 deviation, you'll see it's not going to save us on this one. This is going to be a loss no matter what, okay? But we'll take a 4% loss. I'm not worried about a 4% loss. We were never going to get in because of our cooldown period here, but if you didn't have that cooldown period, you'd have been safe because you don't meet the Bollinger Band. You get the oversold, but you don't get the Bollinger Band trigger. Now, if we come over here, it would have actually saved us on this trade because we wouldn't have gotten in here. We would have gotten in down here and then been able to ride that up. So on the 2.5 deviation for the Bollinger Bands, this wider deviation would have actually got us in here rather than up in here. This we'd have got down here, and we would have got out probably right away in this area here, would have met our percentages. So we could see right there where a couple times it might have saved us. The 1 hour cooldown saved us, and then a wider Bollinger Band would have saved us. Now if we take a look over at BAT, same thing. We got in here yesterday. We got taken out here. We didn't actually get in here. I just put this buy line in to show you because we have our 1 hour cool off. So we didn't actually get in here. I just want to put this line in here to show you that if you're going with our strategy and didn't have the cool off, you would get in here and you'd lose down here. But if we change from 2 to 2.5, you would not get in there because, again, that wider Bollinger Band, the RSI would be signaled and you wouldn't get in. However, this opportunity down here, that when that Bollinger Band was up touching these candles and it was oversold, you wouldn't have this opportunity to ride it up. There's an opportunity missed and there's a saved loss. So maybe we call that a wash. Now if we jump over to Aeon, we got in twice yesterday. We got in on both of these two green lines. This one obviously got stopped out pretty quick. Didn't get back in because of our 1 hour cool off. So our 1 hour cool off again saved us from getting in on, I think we got stopped out here. Could have got back in here. Not here because that's not oversold. But our 1 hour saved us. It went on down. We got back in because of our strategy. And we got stopped out right here on this candle. So let's take a look and see with that wider Bollinger Band. Okay, with the wider Bollinger Band setting, we don't get in here. we get a trigger point on this candle, but if we have the trailing stop buy in place, we don't actually get in till down here where it crosses, and then we actually would have taken our profit right in here. So the wider Bollinger Band would have saved us. We still would have probably got in here because I think that does hit the Bollinger Band and the RSI, but it would have triggered, but we wouldn't have got in until this started positive again, which would have been down here. So that wider Bollinger Band would have saved us this entry, given us this entry with the trailing stop buy, and given us profit. So that's where we could have actually benefited. Do your own research. Try to figure out what settings are best. We'll definitely share our settings with you, but don't count on our settings to perform going in the future the way we see them performed in the past. Thank you for watching the video. If you could do us a favor, spike that like button. It helps other people find this video actually. If there's more likes, more people will find it. If you dislike the video, please leave us a comment as to what you didn't like about the video. Also, please be sure to subscribe. We're going to have a lot of updates. We're constantly testing, and you want to stay updated, you need to subscribe. Until next time, lock in those profits, and we'll see you in the next video.